Last year, I had the opportunity of serving a group of third graders as their lead teacher at Lester Elementary in Jackson Public School System. And I also had the opportunity there to serve as team leader. Now, I currently serve K through 5 students and teachers in the role of literacy coach. And I serve 6th through 8th grade teachers as a support role. During my stint as a third grade teacher and now currently in my role as a literacy coach, I found that in my students' homes that there is not a talk of going to college and there's not a talk of being successful. So once they came through my doors, I made it up in my mind that they would understand that they can be successful and that they would go to college. And I determined my success with these ideas by my students now having conversations amongst their peers about how they are going to be successful and how they were going to go to college. While serving as a third grade teacher, the biggest feat that I had to face was after completing a needs assessment of my students at the beginning of the year, was that most of my students were performing well below the third grade reading level. And how I came up with this was through star reading and Dibble's testing. And so the measurable goals that I set for my students were to exceed their third grade reading level by 2 to 3 years. And I wanted them to exceed this by 2 to 3 years so that I could show them that learning is malleable and that they all can obtain it through hard work and dedication. Through hard work and dedication and perseverance and a lot of grit from my students, we saw that 23 of my 25 students did perform well above the third grade reading level towards the end of the year. So, more than 90% of my students did meet the goal that was set for them to exceed their third grade reading level. Throughout the week, throughout the month, and throughout the school year, I think you need to constantly look at data to drive instruction. So, from the beginning of the planning process, I look at either my interim assessment or my summative or end of the year assessment to see where I need to build my lesson from. From there, I go and do a needs assessment of my students to see where they are. And so I can match my students where they are. And then I build my lesson based off of those two things, my assessment and my needs assessment. And then from there, while I'm within the lesson, I use things such as a thumbs up, thumbs down, exit slips. So I use those formative assessments to also the data to drive my instruction so that through that data I can say, um, do I need to go back and teach this lesson? Or can I move forward with this lesson because my students are proficient in? So, on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, all throughout a lesson, data drives the instruction within the classroom. Data drives the planning of all the material or the skills that will be taught. While I was teaching third grade and currently now as literacy coach, we have incorporated tracking of goals within the classrooms. And how that looks is we have data walls. So, be it in math or in literacy, our students can see, hey, my reading level is going up or my math scores are going up. And so, where we're getting our data from are from our summative assessments or our interim assessments, such as STAR reading, or we're getting it from our end of the year assessments or our interim assessment 9 weeks testing. And so the students are able to see, hey, I'm moving up or I'm going closer and closer to my goal or the classroom goal. And so this helped with students' productivity within the class and the retention of knowledge within the class because all of our students wanted to perform well above expectation. And how I use this data to see trends within the classroom, to see, hey, my students are falling well below my expectations. What do I need to do within my instruction to make sure that my students keep exceeding beyond the expectation? So that's how we use to track data or tracked goals in order to see our students succeed and achieve well beyond the expectation. To ensure that all of our assessments were both rigorous and aligned with our goals and our expectations, we use things within our classroom such as Bloom's taxonomy. We use those things that had our students to think critically, to think analytically, to use higher order thinking skills within their test. And also on assessments, we also had our students to justify their work. So being able to pull out an answer and say, hey, this is why I got this answer. So in order to create a more rigorous class, we used those things that had our students to think well beyond the question and well beyond the answer. When having the opportunity to go back and look at my third grade year of teaching, I definitely wanted 100% of my students to perform well above the third grade reading level. However, two students fell shy of that expectation and that goal. And so when I go back and I want to improve and looking for areas of growth within that classroom, I would go back to the interventions that were done within the classroom so that I can intervene with those students so that they are successful to meet their goals. While I was in the classroom and currently now as my role as literacy coach, I engage the community through monthly newsletter, through data checkpoints, and now we're starting to work on our literacy night, family literacy night, where we have parents come in and read with their students, or more specifically within the third grade, because they now have to take the GATE assessment in order to be promoted to the fourth grade. We have those literacy nights where we give information to the parents to actively involve them into their students' learning and their students' learning outcome. So that's how I engage the parents and the community within my classroom and within the school as a teacher. During my stint at Lester Elementary as a third grade teacher, I had the opportunity to be a founding member of our Soaring Eagles after school program. And this program took young males who were performing at low within the classroom, and we had a after school program for them that ended with basketball training. And so at the beginning of this program, we focused strictly on academic, improving our students through their academics. So we had a tutoring component of this after school program. Following the tutoring program, the next hour would be spent on basketball skills, training our students in the art of basketball. And so from the creation and the implementation of this after school program, we saw that our male students that we had targeted were now performing well above other students within their classroom.